Hey, Ro. The folks are cahoot out there listening to the Bewildered podcast have a meaty one coming up this time.
Oh my gosh, it was such a good one. We heard from one of our cahoot, Rebecca, who was asking about having the courage to shine your light in the world and to get paid what you're worth. So we got stuck right into that, didn't we?
Yes, and we turned it around and twisted it up and inside out, and we came out with 3 magical little words that can set you free to do those things, to shine your light and get what you're worth.
Hope you enjoy this episode, folks. See you on the other side.
Hi, I'm Martha Beck.
And I'm Rowan Mangan, and this is another episode of Bewildered. That's right, the podcast for people like me, like you, like Martha Beck, who are trying to figure it out.
So, Rowan Mangan, gracious badger that you are, what are you trying to figure out?
Marty,
I
have been in this country of yours, this fair country. I'm now a citizen.
Yeah,
if you can
so
believe
is it really
that.
of mines or is it of ours?
Yeah, so this country of ours has a weird relationship with clothing sizes, and this is what I am currently trying to figure out. So vanity sizes I just learned about not too long ago.
Yeah. Oh,
so if you want
You're
an
so
edge,
sweetly naive, my daughter.
if you want an edge as a clothing store, what you do is you make people like on some level say things like, I love shopping at insert clothing store name because I'm only a size 8 at that clothing store. Anywhere else, I'm a size 10 or 12 or whatever, like whatever the numbers are. So they started going, I'm going to make it look like a smaller number. Right. And so
not really make it look like a smaller number, just make clothes the same size, but put a number on them that is smaller.
Put a different number on the tag. And in fairness to those places and those people, it seems to have worked.
Oh, like a charm.
A different number? This is fantastic. Here, take my money and let me take my different numbered clothing away. Like, okay, so this is what happens. So first you're a size, I don't know what you are, you're a size 10. And then suddenly you're like, wow, I'm exactly the same size. And now my clothes say 8. And then, you go, and then like, okay, so Marty, at a certain point on this march towards like non-existence through tininess, you end up being a size 0. And I just want to say,
isn't that stupid?
No. That's impossible. That's not a size. That's the absence of a size. You cannot be a size 0. What happens? Okay, so you're a size 0. Oh no, and then you get the stomach flu. And then what happens then? Suddenly you've gone backwards and you've like backed from 0, gone backwards, like you're through the space-time continuum. You've ripped it. You're now like living your life backwards like Benjamin Button. You can't be a size 0 and you can't be beyond a size 0.
That happened to me.
Oh my God. Marty.
I was steering along as a size 2 and suddenly I was a size 0. Whoa, who saw that coming? And then I did get stomach flu and went to the store and the zeros were too big. And I found that they had created a new size, 00, which, as you say, sort of bends the space-time continuum because it makes no sense. Zero doubled is just 0. No matter how many zeros you put on an article of clothing.
What it has to be, by its own logic, smaller than a size 0 has to be a -1.
Yeah, that's true. And
you're a -1.
You know what I'm wondering?
A percentage less than an actual human.
Or even a whole factor less. Yeah. Do you know if this is true in men's clothes? Do men have size 0s? Google.
I don't think they would
now.
want them. I don't think they would want them.
That's
I think they'd be
point.
Like, "Raw, I go into this store and it means my pecs have developed or something." I don't really know what men think. I'm a lesbian.
At a certain point in my life, I started only picking up like men's muscle mags to read on airplanes back when we read magazines on airplanes, because all the women's stuff was like, here's how you can be smaller and smaller and smaller. And these muscle mags were like, here's how you can be bigger and bigger and bigger. And they still had total body dysmorphia or whatever that's called. Didn't like their bodies, but I don't know if men have size 0.
I don't know either. I just want to say the whole thing is a massive gaslight, and
yes,
like it's bullshit. Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I never will. But if you happen to know what the living heck that's about, please send us a postcard. Marty, what are you trying to figure out?
Something really stupid by comparison. I mean,
yeah, because mine was intellectual.
Yours has existential ramifications. Yours makes me question the nature of my own physical being in the universe. I mean, maybe there's an alternate universe where there's a negative me that is a double zero of myself. Anyway, mine is really simple.
There are 2 negative yous, one for each 0.
Oh, my goodness. Well, there probably would be a universe for every possible combination of zeros, which is infinite. Maybe there's a universe where I literally wear like 100 times 0.
What if the 0 spins because it's like gone into a black hole or something beyond the zeroness, and it spins so hard it becomes an 8? Whip! And then you get small enough and like, boom, you're a size 8.
I am not shopping at that black hole anymore. I got so heavy when I was being pulled into that unintelligible smear of space-time. Yeah. I felt so big. Okay, which could be a good thing. Anyway, back to my problem, which is, and people will not be surprised. They will not be surprised. And that's exactly why I have to talk about it. Because they will not be surprised because it's so obvious that I have this problem.
All right.
I cannot stop talking about animals. I just finished edits for my book that's coming out in a few months. And my editor was like, it's a book on anxiety. Your readers don't care that wombats poop in cubes. They don't care. And I'm like, no, woman, everybody cares. How could we not care? Anyway, there were animal stories on like every other page. It was like some sort of children's book with pictures of happy animals in the margins. So I took all that out pretty much. But then as we were driving, this happens a lot. We'll be driving and you, Rowan Mangan, Gracious Badger, are very efficient, and you have Siri connected to the car, writing and reading your texts. You're doing communication as we go, right?
Yeah, and like reminders and stuff. My big one is Siri, remind me when I get home too.
Yeah.
Very handy.
Or text so-and-so and tell them this. And then, so Siri listens to this, and then there's a pause, and then Siri says, your text to so-and-so says this. Shall I send it? And then you say send it. Well, all of that part is way too long for my brain to focus. The ADHD brain, as soon as you stop speaking, I'm done. And there's always something in our beautiful Pennsylvania neighborhood. There's always something waddling or trotting by. And I have to talk about it.
Immediately.
And so today we were driving and you dictated a text.
Yes.
To your assistant. And then you held up a finger at me very significantly.
Yes.
Now I realize that the finger meant
don't talk about animals for the next 1.5 seconds.
Yes, because it will become part of my text.
Yes.
And that is not what I wish. But I followed the valence of the pointing finger, and my eyes did land upon, you will not guess it, a donkey. So, naturally.
So the text that my assistant received this morning read, Marty, do you want to take this away? Sure. Please make an appointment for me at the chiropractor in about 2 weeks. Donkey! And then, like in a flash, I realized what had happened because
Oh, listener, this is not the first time nor even the 100th. This is a continuous issue for us. And I realized, I did it again. I mentioned a donkey right in the middle of a text. It's not what most people have to fight and cope with. And I think I deserve some kind of special compassion because of it.
I think I deserve some kind of special compassion because of it. I mean, I lifted the finger, Marty. I know you so well. And the thing that happened to me is I was driving the car, I was managing the chiropractics, and all you were doing was just having to sit there. I started the text to our beloved Natalie, and as I turned the corner, as I was beginning to dictate the text, and I saw those donkeys there. And my brain just like triangulated the scene and went, oh no, oh no. And so I held up my finger desperately to prevent.
Desperately pointing to the donkey because you needed to talk about it out loud that very second. I get it.
It's so funny because people would think it's Martha Beck. It's Dr. Martha Beck.
Donkey!
She must have some really sophisticated take on animals.
Donkey, 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 donkey. I literally saw two donkeys grazing in a field of buttercups, and I just was like, oh, what a world. So, yeah, sorry, Natalie. I do not think you're a donkey.
We'll be right back with more Bewildered. We don't say this enough. We are so glad you're a Bewildered listener, and we're hoping you might want to go to the next level with us. By which I mean, if you rate and review the podcast, it helps new people find us so we can keep bewildering new souls, and you know how much we love that. Ratings are very much appreciated. Obviously, the more stars you give us, the more appreciation is forthcoming. Reviews are quite simply heaven, and we read every one and exclaim over them, and we just love you all. Mwah.
We should probably get to our topic.
Yeah, what's our topic today, Marty?
Well, it's a BeWild Files episode. We're getting questions from a wonderful listener.
Yeah, because as we do like to say from time to time, very rarely actually, it's not all about us.
What? It's about us and a donkey.
Us and a donkey, and one of our beloved other butterflies whose name today is Rebecca. So let's hear from Rebecca.
Hi, Ro and Marty. Thank you for Bewildered. It's such a generous act, and we all really appreciate it. So thanks for battling the technology. My name's Rebecca, and I'm one of the other butterflies. My question to you is, how do I get wilder in my imagination of how to have my own business? I've had a business since January of 2020, but my old world conceptions of what work means have really gotten in the way of me shining my light, telling people about it, enrolling people in the mission, and allowing myself to charge a lot of money so that I can support myself and also make this even bigger. How would you structure a business in this day and age with your neurodivergent brains? And do you have any advice for me? Thanks.
Oh, Rebecca, this is so right in the sweet spot of what we need to know ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes, with our neurodivergent brains. Ro, what do you think about all this?
I have so many thoughts. The first is, I have no idea, Rebecca. It's really hard. But it's a really, 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 really good thing for us to focus on, I think, because what I heard you say actually is my old world conceptions about work are stopping me, blah, blah, blah. But I think that your old world oh my God, why can't I say it? Your old world conceptions about worth are what is actually going on here. So, and my clue for that.
It's not work. It's worth.
It's worth.
Okay.
And my clue that you were doing that is where you kind of apologize for why you want to charge a lot of money to support myself and so that I can make it bigger. Not because I'm greedy. I'm not, that's the implication. Mm-hmm. And I heard it because I do it. So, it's like, that's not the thing. And as far as work goes, you're running your business. You've been doing it for at least 4 years. You're good at it. Work's not the problem. It's the worth piece, I think. Tell me where I'm wrong. So if you know your thing is good, the business that you're running, you probably do if you've spent years, working to share it with people. And if you still feel a sense of smallness or shame around telling people how good it is and charging a lot of money for it, then I think that you and many, many, many of us are being remote controlled by the culture in this area. What do you think, Mother
Yes.
Beck?
Yeah, it's even more like when people break free of the soul-killing jobs and start to do what gives them real passion. The irony is what they're putting into the world is a much more value to them, and I think therefore to other people, than doing a job they hate. But they become very, very troubled about asking money for it. There's something about putting your heart out that means asking for a lot of money is going to get you shamed. Anyway, we will talk much more about this, but I just wanted to say that I still have trouble allowing myself to charge money for anything. And some of the things I do are, they're expensive to run, so they're expensive for the people who come to them. And I'm always apologizing inside. Sometimes I'll like hold it in. But at one point, I said, I don't want to do any one-on-one coaching again. This was like 10 years ago. And the people I was working with at the time said, no worries. We'll charge an absurd amount for a one-on-one session with you. So I was like, ooh, ugh, okay. And they said, nobody will buy it. So I was like, okay. So they did it and people bought it. They bought sessions. And I remember just like sitting in a session with this woman, knowing how much money she had paid. And believe me, to her, it was a raindrop in a hurricane. I mean, this woman was not hurting for money. But I was like covered with fire ants. I couldn't stand how much she was paying for every month, every minute. And I had to stop. I couldn't do it because I still go into that. Yes, this is only to feed my children. Thank God I have another child now, so I have a dog. I have to feed it. And I don't. Yeah, that's arguing for your needs and your caretaking propensities. It is not saying, look at this beautiful thing that I alone am able to create, potentially. It's worth a lot of money to a lot of people, so that's what I'm going to receive for it. Oh, that's hard. That is so hard for me. I can't do it, really. I can fake it a little.
And I think a lot of this is just reminding each other that it's a thing, And so one of the things you told me once, which was very helpful, is you were explaining to me that sometimes there's a way that we do that, like it's humility, I guess, but it's a way of making ourselves small. And you told me that's still ego. There's an ego element in making yourself small.
Oh, yeah.
Could you explain what you meant by that?
Well, the thing is, if you're using ego in kind of the Asian philosophical sense, not the Freudian sense, where ego is the little person in the head that is separate from the world and frightened and wanting to control everything and doomed to die. And then the awakened self, which is the true self, is relaxed and doesn't have that kind of fear. So if you're going to awaken out of your small self and into your true self, your awakened self, the word Buddha just means awakened, you have to stop thinking of yourself as like Ozymandias, the emperor who is in charge of everything and who rules everyone. You have to stop being narcissistic, right? You have to stop thinking you're all that in a box of cookies. But you also have to stop projecting images of yourself designed to please other people, even if they aren't the emperor.
Because that's a lie as well.
Exactly.
The fake smallness and the fake bigness amount to the same thing.
Yeah. I was just working with someone who is a world-class champion at a bunch of things. And I said to them, oh, that's great. I mean, you're a genius. And they were like, no. I'm just ordinary. And by saying that, what they were doing was saying, everybody can do what I do. You all just must be lazy or negligent or barking up the wrong tree or something, because this person was so talented, and by pretending to be normal, by insisting on normalcy, they distorted the reality that everybody else can see. Like, you're better at this stuff than almost anybody. No, I'm not. Yeah, you are. To say I'm not better than anybody else at whatever my specialty is, that's a lie designed to make you fit in so that people won't pound on you for being better at stuff than they are.
But I think there's a confusion there because it's like you're not, regardless of if your ego is driving you to narcissism or a fake smallness, it's not about you being better at anything. No. It's about you making things and offering things of value to the world. So I think that's where we get confused, is we get it all mixed up with our own identity and, our own sense of worth when we charge stuff, right?
Yeah.
And some of it has to do with what we expect, which is always culture-based, right?
Yeah, there was a period in psychology where a lot of folks were doing research on what was called expectancy theory. And it was amazing how they found that people's expectations of themselves and other people's expectations of each other were determining a significant amount of what value that person was given or their work was given. So they would go to elementary schools, public schools, and they would divide the classes into randomly and then tell the teachers that one group of their students was gifted and the other group was delayed. Yeah. And the kids didn't even know this was happening. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the year, the kids that the teacher had been told were gifted were performing really well. Those that the teacher had been told were delayed were not performing up to their own ability level. So the teacher's expectation, even without the kids knowing what was happening, seemed to have a real impact on how they performed. And that it's such a circular thing because there are so many factors that have been assigned by society that say you're not worth as much as another person or you're worth more. Mm-hmm. And those feed into the structures. Then we are in the structures, and also we are being taught the same things about what to expect for ourselves.
Even unconsciously.
Yes,
like those kids.
It's deeply unconscious a lot of times. But for me, it's always like there's an insistent pattern that's coming up that says, I just can't get this one thing to be valued. And I always find that I don't value it. But it's a total circular thing where you don't expect as much for yourself. You, put out a vibe. And society also doesn't expect you to be worth much. And hey, if you're living a bewildered life, if you have decided to step out of the culture, mm-hmm. that means that the culture is invested in telling us we are worthless and the work we do outside the culture is worthless. That's not our truth. So we have to find our ground, dig in, and expect the hell out of our own value.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's such a great point. And I don't want to, before we move on from the expectation piece, I do want to, without oversimplifying stuff, because gender and race and all these things are more complex than I'm going to make them seem. But I do think that privilege plays a part here. And I remember Liz, our friend Liz Gilbert, doing this talk once where she was talking about there's a lot of research, I guess, in the HR kind of world where men consistently overestimate their own abilities when they're going for jobs, and women consistently estimate their own abilities or to do a job. And Liz was, and that's the effect of the teacher saying we're either advanced or we're slow, right? Mm-hmm. That's the equivalent. The society is your role is to succeed in your career, and that mm-hmm. has its own pressures, or your job is don't worry about that, love. It's not really your cup of tea, And so, that's we're getting these messages, and that's playing out in that. You can see it in that research. But what Liz was saying is, she's like, we got to be more like men. We've just got to be like, I never done that job before, but how hard could it be? She's going through all these examples, and she's like, I've never invaded a country before. But how hard could it be?
Let's do it. I'm sure I'll be good at that. Yeah. I'm good at everything. Everyone tells me so. Yeah.
And I want to say that this is a piece of the larger conversation that we have on this podcast where the fact that in some way it's inevitable that we do create our own cultures, because that's what people do in a clump, is that this is where the Kahoot, like our bewildered Kahoot, really comes into the fore, because the only real way that we can consistently believe in our own worth, independent of the messages we've received, is to fucking, rah, buck each other up a bit.
That's right. That's right. It's kind of like you have to be the child who says the emperor has no clothes, and the child who says that person over there who's been designated as worthless is incredibly special and valuable. Like, that child has to not only call the privileged on their illusions, it also has to call us on our own illusions of being inferior or worthless. Yeah, because we're outside the culture.
Yeah.
The child has to not only say that emperor is naked, but also has to say, and that person over there is amazing.
But I don't think we want, like, I feel like, to me, it's like, it's not about saying it to a third party. It's about saying it to the person.
Oh, yeah.
That, like, let's say it to each other rather than proclaiming it to someone else.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you.
Although, when I see somebody awesome, it's hard for me to not yell, donkey,
Yeah, but in the long run, I don't know if that's going to help that individual that you just walked by and shouted donkey at them. I don't know if, like, your more nuanced message that means they're awesome is really getting
a metaphor.
through.
What I really mean is that sometimes I pass a field of buttercups and I see a person grazing in the field and I scream, person in buttercups. Yeah. When I see someone outside the culture doing something awesome, I cannot keep it to myself. It's exactly like seeing a donkey. Mm-hmm. Take that to the bank.
I'm right there with you, babe. I'm right there with you. Yeah. No, absolutely. So I think if we can, like, invert that unconscious sense of being worth less, not without worth, I don't mean to be dramatic, but, like, worth less than someone who can charge a lot for their business, right?
Right.
We can invert that inside ourselves, then we can also do it among ourselves. And, like, we got to remember, okay, so we run a business. People want to get something really good that will help them or will just delight them, right? And sometimes, in order to be delighted, it takes in us apportioning a certain value to it and passing on some bucks to represent that value. And then I can value it, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so you put a high price on what you do. You're saying, don't get caught up in a idea of, you don't have any money, but I'm taking your last bit of money. No. It's just like, look at this cool thing. You know? Do you want it to cost this?
Yeah. And it's such a hard, it's like a razor thin line between the abuse of capitalism saying, give me all your money for this thing, and look at this delightful thing. Isn't it worth some of your, like, will you trade for me something of yours? Because what we're really doing when we pay each other money is we're symbolically exchanging our energy.
Yeah.
So when you, for example, buy a book, you are paying for the energy of the author, but mainly for the energy of the publishers and the people who put the book on paper and the people who drove it there. And it's weird because money's in the mix. We evolved to just be hunter-gatherers, and hunter-gatherers lived for hundreds of thousands of years, human hunter-gatherers, in great abundance without money. So it's really hard for our heads to grasp this money thing, and it tends to follow biases and systems of oppression much more. I mean, when they give chimpanzees food, they'll trade it and barter it. But if they give them chips they can trade for food, they get crazy and start ripping each other's arms off.
Oh, my God, this is what's happening with Lila, with our surprise economy.
Did she rip your arms off?
She tried to.
I knew this was coming.
We just went, this is so interesting. We just went off the deep end a bit with trying to teach her to anyway, it doesn't matter, but like follow a star system. So you do this, you get your shoes on, you get a star, you get a star, you get a star. The stars start to add up, and eventually you trade all the stars for a surprise. And she just turned into a surprise monster.
Yeah.
Surprise obsessed, surprise like preoccupied, always with the look for the surprise. And that was our fault.
A token economy, and by that I mean the token being the star or the coin or the check or whatever it is, the fantasy number in some bank computer. I mean, there's all this money floating around that doesn't even exist. We just agree that if I tap a card on a machine, money goes from my personal possession into the possession of the grocery store or something. It's so weird.
So weird.
And we aren't really evolved to deal with it. And so it becomes a talisman, an exemplar of the way we apportion value. And it makes us crazy, and it makes the world crazy. And that's a good reason to step outside of culture right there.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
All right. So how do we solve it, Marty?
Oh, that's easy. I'll tell you in a minute.
So how would you say that we solve the issue of like how to present or offer or share something with the world that is wonderful to you without somehow feeling guilty for charging money or telling people it's great?
I think you have to, like, if you back away from culture, then you end up in nature, right? And in nature, you're just enjoying the essence of whatever it is you are utilizing or consuming, like a delicious fruit you're eating or something. And you're like Eve in the Garden of Eden. Hey, Adam, this is delicious. You've got to try it. I mean, it's interesting that they put that as the ultimate sin. This is delicious. You should try it.
Marketing, the ultimate sin.
Yes, it really is. Anyway, it's a very natural thing for animals to. I remember one time when we had a beagle, Cookie the dog. And I had my first lot of kids were really little, and my ex-husband and I, on Easter, put all these hard-boiled eggs everywhere, decorated the eggs, hid them everywhere, went to bed, hoping to get up as late as possible for the Easter egg hunt. And at like 4 a.m, we hear, "Arr! Arr!" And we go out, and there is Cookie the beagle, completely round and very flatulent, surrounded by countless fragments of colored eggshell. And he was in there going, "Oh my God, you guys, there is food everywhere." So he was calling the pack, man, calling the pack. And that's like, this is how I feel when we see something wonderful on television, like Gina Chick on Australia Alone. If you haven't heard me talk,
Australia.
Alone, Australia. Be alone, Australia, out in the ocean. Yeah, watch the first season of Alone, Australia, and watch this woman named Gina Chick. We watched it. Why? Because someone said this exact thing to us.
Yeah.
And Gina Chick isn't paying us. She is an astonishing human being. And I want everyone to see her.
Yeah, get into Gina Chick. She's amazing.
Yeah.
But the person who told us about Gina and Alone Australia wasn't confused between here's this amazing thing, you'll love it, and their own worth. It's when we have created something that suddenly we think it's us. That if I say you should do my course or you should buy my bracelet, then you're saying, I think I'm so good and I'm better than you, as though no one's saying that. Just, this is the thing I made that I'm offering.
Well, I do have some theories about this. I have some opinions and approaches.
Yes.
But first of all, I want to say that it's very important to get over that cultural hurdle of this thing that I have made outside the culture of my own mother wit, as Shakespeare put it. I mean, Shakespeare was always making up words. He did things that were outside the culture, and then he would just plonk them down there and say, take it. This is amazing stuff. They say he never blotted a line. He just wrote it down and said, this is amazing. Go for it. He was kind of another butterfly, the other butterfly, which Rebecca says she is too. But I think we have to get over that hurdle and realize that it's more precious to do something that is completely our own. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. I saw this cool thing. I don't know how relevant this is now, but I saw this really cool thing of this person talking about being another butterfly, which is our little shorthand in Bewildered for in some way neurodivergent, bit different, bit countercultural, you know. And it was a British guy called Chris Packham, and he's a TV presenter and conservationist in the UK. And he was talking about why neurodivergent people are essential. And he said, you know, like for society at a time of crisis or whatever, that people say, oh, we've got to think outside the box. And he's like, I don't see a box. And it's like, so that is anyone's, and Rebecca, you identify as one of the other butterflies. So that's where you can be kind of sure that you're bringing something unique, right? Yeah. You're bringing something of unique worth.
Which other people who are inside the box will not see. They can't see outside the box. So you can give them something of incredible value and they'll literally not see anything. It won't matter. It won't be significant to them. I
disagree. I think that as someone with a unique perspective, she can offer people things that they wouldn't know how to make themselves, but that they will find immense value in it.
Actually, you know what? You're right. And it's reminding me of something that I worship this neurologist and philosopher named Ian McGilchrist. And he talks about how we get stuck in our left hemisphere, and the whole culture is very left hemisphere. And he says, magic is what the left hemisphere calls it, anything it doesn't understand. So what happens is, this has been my experience, I'll do something that feels logical to me with my neurodivergent brain. Other people will say, that's really weird. Go back and say that again. I don't understand it. And then they say, oh, that's magical.
Shut up and take my money.
And it's not magical. To me, it's really evident, but I do have a weird brain. And even though I've had trouble charging for it and I have to wrestle with the same demons Rebecca does, you're right. People have looked at stuff that I thought was like my first self-help book. I was like, this is so stupid. Everyone knows it. And people were like, this is really good. I want to get more. Yeah. They liked it. You're right.
So we have to internally flip our narrative around worth and actually invert it fully. So how should we do it? What do you think?
Well, obviously I have not done this yet, but at least I can I get the logic of it. But in the moment when it's time to sort of claim our value, and especially if we're shamed by people inside the culture who don't see the value, and that happens a lot. People who, especially if you're like, I see my own worth, and the other person is in a position where they would rather have you in a one down position.
Yeah.
You can get slapped hard by individuals and by entire institutions. And when you're shamed, it's very hard to hold your ground. Yeah. And what I think, and this is not like fake it till you make it or anything, it's you need a script. You need what to say. And
Can I just say we've been sorry, just as the thing on scripts, like it's so interesting. We had a conversation about this recently where it was like, it's funny the thing with scripts because on the one hand, we're supposed to be talking about being like not being prescriptive and not being like, follow these rules, do this A, B, C, D. But I think, and then brilliant Kit, your eldest bio kid, said, it's actually for neurodivergent people. The social scripts thing has its own like value. So I just want to say, like, it's not the script idea is about offering possibilities, not prescriptions.
And then it becomes scripture or prescription, and it just ossifies into a monstrous gargoyle of itself as soon as the culture tries to use it. Anyway, I was listening on audio to a book by Samantha Irby, a hilarious, brilliant author whom I love. And I was reading her book, Quietly Hostile, which is, I think, one of the best titles ever written by anyone. Good. And she gives us a script for what to do when someone shames you. And it's wonderful to listen to her voice saying it, because you get all the warmth and gusto. And so when somebody says to her, "Oh my God, I can't believe you shop at that stupid store," she says, "I like it." And people say, "How dare you charge so much money?" "I like it." "Why are you doing such a stupid thing?" "I like it." "How come you live such a weird life?" "I like it." And she says, "You can use 'I like it.' Take it, go with it, run with it, use it anywhere." Thank you, Samantha Irby, because that changed my life just a few days ago. And I think that'll be moving forward. I'm going to be able to do what maybe Rebecca's learning to do when people come at us in order to shame us. I like it.
I feel like it's a way of saying to the person, this is not a category in which I am able to be shamed. Like, ooh. I do not accept the premise that there is anything wrong with shopping at that store. Like, right. Not only am I unashamed, I'm like doubling down on, I like it. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. Marty started telling us about how much she enjoyed this part of the book. And that night I was like secretly beading away in my garret like I do. And I was watching a very obscure British crime novel from the 80s, 90s. And did I say crime novel? Crime drama, crime TV show.
Yeah, got crime novels on the brain, Rowan.
Oh, yeah. I think everything is a novel. And it was just so funny because that exact thing played out with this character where someone sort of quite disapprovingly was saying, "Why do you smoke so much?" And this guy, who's played by Robbie Coltrane, who later became Hagrid in Harry Potter, "Why do you smoke so much?" "I like it." "And you drink a lot as well." "I like it." "And why are you always gambling?" "Yeah, I am. I like it." It's great.
There's nowhere to go with that. Like when shame hits a surface that has no sense of inferiority, it just slides off it like Teflon, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
And it was so interesting that I was talking about Sam Irby's script, and that very night you saw a TV show where someone did exactly that. Exactly. That's what we call a synchronicity, guys. And let me tell you something. Carl Jung believed in synchronicities, even though Freud pretty much disowned him for it. And the best thing about having Ivy League degrees is that I can say, I believe in synchronicities and that they show us a way through life and that they happen more when we're on our right path. And a lot of educated people say, "Oh my God, how could you be so gauche and new age?" And I like it.
Brilliant.
I really, really like it.
Brilliant.
Anyway.
It does mean, though, if you want to use that script around this topic, it does sort of imply a proviso there, right? Which is that you can't be what's the word? Like, you can't be disingenuous about what your product is. Right?
You actually have to like your product.
That's you have to actually like it.
Yeah. And I can say that about synchronicities because they've proven themselves to me, and they're not of me. They are not made by me. But right now I'm going through this in a very big and very real way because like 3 weeks ago, after drawing obsessively for well over 50 years, I had a conversation with Ro where I said, in some life, I want to be an artist, a professional artist. And she said, how about this life? And now I take time to paint every day, and I don't feel like I deserve that. And then we have to price these paintings I'm making. Price them? Oh my God, I don't know what to do. And so we were doing research on how much do you charge for a painting? Because it's so arbitrary. And this one person online says, okay, you take your painting, you sit down with it, you have a glass of whiskey. Sorry. This was another person. I'm not telling you to drink whiskey. This person said, sit back, look at it, sip your whiskey and say, how much do I like it?
And whatever that number is, put it on the price tag.
Right, exactly. I haven't tried it yet, but we did read through this, and I can feel what Rebecca's feeling. I can feel this part of the culture gripping my chest when I think about offering art for sale. It's hard. It's hard to give your heart to the world and then get barter for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's easy to feel inferior.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's the thing is if we can keep the I like it energy, it's like that I was at Eleanor Roosevelt who said no one can make you feel inferior without your consent, right? So if we're going to reject the narrative, if we're going to withhold our consent, right, to be made to feel inferior or ashamed for saying, oh my God, this is so good, you've got to try this, right? So if we can reclaim the value in ourselves and in what we make and just do it cheerfully, because the idea that you shouldn't charge money is absurd, and the message that you shouldn't charge money is really there. It's really there. It's not your imagination.
You are not imagining this, Rebecca.
No.
And all of y'all.
No, it's totally there. And we had this thing, we might have talked about this before, but because I don't think I've mentioned our friend Liz Gilbert on this podcast enough. I don't know if anyone knows this, but we're actually friends with Liz Gilbert.
I think we should switch our drinking game to
from Harvard to
every
Liz
time
Gilbert.
I say Harvard, you drink a glass of water because it's good for you.
Yeah.
And change it to whenever we mention our friend Liz Gilbert, you drink a glass of water because it's good for you. Okay, proceed.
It's not so much that we're name droppers. It's just that we have very few friends.
That is so true.
So there was this time a bunch of years ago where we wanted to do a writing course, and we told Liz about it. She's like, that sounds cool. Do you want me to put something up about it on my Facebook page? This is back in the era of Facebook. Oh. And we were like, oh, my God, thank you so much. And so she wrote this Facebook post. Oh, my friends are doing this course and this is what it's about. And it's so cool. And she's like, I'm not getting paid to do any of this. I'm just telling you. And, oh, my God, the culture came at her because we were charging money for that course. And, I mean, I guess it came for us as well. But it was just so weird seeing the comments coming on Liz's post, because she was genuinely just like, guys, this is so good. You've got to try this. And the culture came down at her, as the internet is always a good lens to really view the culture at its most vociferous and nasty.
And they came down on her as if she were claiming her own value, and she wasn't even talking about herself.
Yeah, not only was it like you're confused between what I'm offering and me myself, but this wasn't even something she was offering. She was just spreading the word. Anyway, so one of the comments that we still joke about now that she got in exchange for saying, hey, there's this few months writing course that Martha Beck's offering, someone just wrote, how many millions are enough, Liz Gilbert? And to which it's like, I don't know, 37 off the top of my head. Strange question. I like it.
I like it.
Maybe 41 million. I don't know. But fuck you, culture. I'm making my art. It doesn't matter. No many millions are enough because I'm making my art.
You know what? You are reminding me of something that Liz has said over and over when she comes
is that
to
our
visit.
friend Liz Gilbert?
Yes, and she does appear like she has been all the vituperation of the culture has been thrown at her, and she looks dead in the eye and says, "I like it."
She's good at that.
She really is. But every time she comes, I'm always working on a painting or whatever, and she always says, if I could do that, I would be out on the street handing out pamphlets. Everyone in the world would know that I made that. You couldn't stop me.
Yeah.
And it's really, that is actually something for me to, she's like another butterfly floating in front of me, doing one of those wind shear things that helps you go faster because you're right behind someone who's sort of going into the
complicated wind. Metaphor, but yeah.
I keep wanting to say breaking wind, but that's not how it works.
Liz
when
Gilbert.
Breaking wind.
Someone pull out this quote and put it on a little meme. Liz Gilbert floats ahead of me, breaking wind. Martha Beck.
So to make it easier for me to be an artist. But, this is the thing about having a Kahoot, having our Kahoot of Bewildereds, because when we get together and we look at each other's work, we can validate. But I think you always know in your heart when you make something that is truly, truly original and unique and deeply felt, you know that you like it.
Yeah.
And and you can start just like look at other people who don't have skin in the cultural race, and they can say, no, if I could do that, I'd be out handing out pamphlets. And you can start to think, I like it. I like it. Yeah, the path of the other butterflies doesn't have to be a lonely path, and it doesn't have to be a path someone else makes up for us.
Yeah.
It's something we just,
It's actually something that we're thinking ahead about trying to formalize in some way with you all, because this idea of the Kahoot and the space where we can focus on building each other up and not pulling each other down is something that is really important to us personally, and I'm pretty sure it probably is to you all as well.
Yeah, we can all break wind for each other.
Oh, lovely. Beautiful.
In the Kahoot. No. I mean, really, we can see each other's value and love each other's creativity. And just remember that a wild thing never thinks in terms of value. It just likes things.
Right?
It likes it. Yeah.
Oh, I like it.
I like it too.
So
stay wild.
We hope you're enjoying Bewildered. If you're in the USA and want to be notified when a new episode comes out, text the word WILD to 570-873-0144. We're also on Instagram. Our handle is Bewildered Podcast. You can follow us to get updates, hear funny snippets and outtakes, and chat with other fans of the show. Bewildered is produced by Scott Forster with support from the brilliant team at MBI. And remember, if you're having fun, please rate and review, and stay wild.